Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I'm Billy Embody coming at you on this Tuesday. And boy, it has been a huge start to the week for SMU, and we're only getting going. So, a quick reminder before we get going on this podcast: $1 for 3 months, $50 for the year. That is the special we have going on right now at ontheponyexpress.com. That runs till Wednesday night at midnight. So, jump on board, because with the news dropping like we're seeing, you're going to want to be on there. And before we get to SMU's newest commitment, we've got to go with the news that went public just moments ago. I was debating whether or not I was going to talk about it on the podcast, but he tweeted it out. So here we go. Good timing. SMU is hosting 5-star plus edge rusher Colin Simmons for an official visit. He's the top ranked edge rusher in the country and the number one prospect in the state of Texas on the On3 industry ranking. He's a number 4 overall prospect in the country. It just doesn't get much bigger than this for SMU, hosting a prospect like this from right down the road at a state championship winning program in Duncanville. They've had Colin Simmons on campus before. He is not a stranger. He's somebody that's been to campus before, and now he comes officially with his family to the Hilltop to check things out. And he was one that was on campus for that November unofficial visit weekend, or I should say day, with a lot of the top talent around the Dallas area. So that was their big push, kind of coming off of that Houston win. They had the all-black jerseys. Colin Simmons was a part of that group that was on SMU's campus. Now, competition is fierce. When you're a prospect like this, it's really one of those things where SMU is just going to take the biggest swing that it can. This is an all-hands-on-deck 2-day visit that began just really minutes ago as Colin Simmons and his family made their way to the Hilltop to be there for this official visit. You're going to have Calvin Thibodeau, you're going to have Keenan Hall, Ricky Hunley, all these guys on the coaching staff that have really been, pushing for guys like Colin Simmons in the Dallas area, not to mention your area recruiters on the staff, on the recruiting staff side of things, like Tyler Foster, Scott Natty, Alex Brown, Danny West. All of those guys are all going to be really integral in this recruiting process. And not to mention, you're going to have Scott Simons show him the plan as far as why SMU needs him so badly. You're going to have Rhett Lashley share the plan, again, why SMU needs him so badly. And you're going to see where the chips fall if you're SMU. That's all you can do. I will mention, here's a quote from Colin Simmons at the On3 NIL Elite Series that we held in Nashville at the end of May, with the top prospects in the 2024 class making their way to Nashville to meet with our leadership here at On3. They spent time with Kirk Herbstreit, Livy Dunn, a bunch of other leaders in the space of college football as well as NIL. And he was asked about NIL, and his mother, Monica, very involved in the recruiting process with him. And he said, quote, "Honestly, I like to leave it to my mom a little bit, but I like to hear it myself because it sounds good. I like to hear the money talk, but like to leave it to my mom, let her handle that business and come back to me and tell me what sounds best." If SMU has a puncher's chance in this recruitment, and I do think they're a long shot, NIL is going to be a critical piece. And that is just telling it like it is. You're a 5-star plus prospect in Colin Simmons, which, for those of you that don't know, 5-star plus is our, notation on a prospect where every single recruiting and ranking service ranks you as a 5-star. And that's what Colin Simmons is. So every single service has him as a 5-star prospect, including us. We have him as the number 5 overall prospect in the country. And with NIL being a big piece, that's going to be a piece that, from SMU's side of things, Pony Sports DTX, the collectives, they're going to have to address at some point over the course of his recruitment. Colin Simmons plans to take this all the way to the early signing period. He does not plan to make a decision as of now until that point of the year. So he's going to go through the fall uncommitted. And he's already taken some visits over the course of his recruitment, the last year plus at least, including SMU, like we mentioned. But let me catch you up on who else is involved here. He's fresh off a Miami official visit that moved the needle for him. Do I think he heads down to South Beach, Coral Gables? Not right now. He said that he's eyeing the SEC, and that makes a lot of sense, especially given the latest round of realignment that has included Texas going to the SEC. They're a big player here, but Texas and LSU are the two teams that he at least named as a leader going into the summer at the On3 NIL Elite Series. But you also have programs like Alabama, who's going to host him this weekend, coming off the SMU official visit. Then he's going to head to Oregon for a visit next week, early next week. And then he heads to Texas for the final official visit weekend of June. And then Texas A&M, July 26th through the 28th. He plans to take official visits to LSU and Texas A&M in the fall. He'll probably add another one. Remember, he's a guy that can take an unlimited number of official visits starting July 1st. So we've seen him take Miami. We've seen him take SMU now. Alabama is an official visit from what we're told. Texas is an official visit from what we're told. And then you've got LSU and A&M who are going to fire away in the fall. And I'm sure there's going to be another one. You know, Oregon hasn't used that official visit just yet. So this is a recruitment that is going to have twists and turns. I think there are obviously more programs in it than just LSU and Texas. The programs that he's visited and will visit this summer are certainly in it. And we'll kind of see. Right now, LSU leads the On3 recruiting prediction machine for him, but there's a long way to go. And this is just a huge moment for SMU to at least maybe make a move, maybe shock the world. And even Colin Simmons tweeted either early this week or over the weekend or late last week. You know, he said people are going to flip when they see where he ends up for college. But for SMU, this is the right thing to do. And they've hosted him before. So they have a relationship here. This isn't something that's kind of coming out of left field in the sense. I'm a little surprised at the timing. I kind of thought maybe he'd be a guy that maybe popped into the fall for an official visit. Maybe somehow SMU got him in December as the recruitment kind of heats up as far as his final decision goes. But this is, a prospect that will probably, cruise by SMU again this fall for a game visit. He won't have to take an official visit. He's right up the road, or right down the road for that. But now SMU can get him on campus, get him around the staff. He's the only official visitor on campus during this time, and they can take their shot. When it comes to Colin Simmons, I look at him and I see one of the best prospects I've ever seen, quite frankly, and covered, especially at the edge rusher position. He is disruptive. He was a state championship defensive MVP when Duncanville won it this year. He's about 6'3", 225. He's got long arms. And he just comes off the ball with such aggressiveness and ability to really disrupt opposing offenses. He's a special player, and you see him getting a sack right there on Keelan Russell, a 4-star in the 2025 class, a quarterback that Duncanville has. He just doesn't really, let anything stop him. He's added a spin move. He's added a counter. He's added all these pieces to his game, even since I've seen him in the state championship, and he plays really hard. So SMU needs an edge rusher of the future. That is something that we know that SMU, I think, has to get in this class. And so the position of need and ability to play right away and in his case, start right away is something that's going to be obviously pushed from SMU's side of things, because that is what it's going to take. He's not a guy that is going to sit at any college that he goes to. And quite frankly, he shouldn't. He is just honestly one of the best players I've ever covered from the high school ranks. So SMU is leading off this week with a huge official visitor. And going into this weekend, they're going to have even more on campus, some big-time prospects hitting the hilltop. So that news, we broke it to our ontheponyexpress.com subscribers hours before Colin even tweeted it out. So all the more reason to jump on board with a subscription. This is the time of year that you can see news coming on ontheponyexpress.com, or you can be surprised about it by not being on ontheponyexpress.com. So we've added well over double-digit subscribers just in the last week. So we appreciate all you guys who have jumped on board. But if you haven't, jump on board now before that offer expires. SMU wasn't done as far as big recruiting news. Look, this news came down on Sunday off the heels of SMU landing a commitment from 2025 four-star athlete Demetrius Brisbane from Tyler Chapel Hill. His teammate, Rickey Stewart Jr., we talked about him last week on the podcast. Well, lo and behold, he dialed up the staff on Sunday and said, I'm ready to make my decision. And he committed to SMU. This is a massive addition for the SMU staff. He's a 2025 running back that rushed for over 2,200 yards and 18 touchdowns on 236 carries. So really around that 9 yards per carry range that, we talked about last week on the podcast. It's kind of where you want to be. We'll have a big breakdown with Charles Power, our national recruiting analyst who does our rankings at On3, breaking down Rickey Stewart and Demetrius Brisbane's game. But SMU gets a 5'11", 180-pound running back who sits inside our top 150 overall prospects in the country, number 14 running back nationally for On3. He's a top 250 overall prospect on the On3 industry ranking. He had Alabama, Arkansas, Baylor, Michigan, Ole Miss, TCU, and other offers to his name. In early May, he said that Alabama was his leader. And, when it came down to it, SMU has had him on campus multiple times. And I think the biggest thing for both of these players, and we've kind of talked about it, and I dropped some more notes on theponyexpress.com about Rickey and his decision and Demetrius as well. But relationships were key here. Kyle Cooper, Keenan Hall, the entire staff, really did a nice job here recruiting him. Tyler Foster, guys like that. And for two East Texas players and two East Texas stars to go ahead and make that decision and commit to SMU, it says a lot about the job SMU's done recruiting them. This was not a situation where SMU was like, come on, let's jump on this. You like us, commit, and then see what happens. SMU, and this is kind of the way. Remember, when we talked about like Jordan Hudson and Chase Biddle and guys like that earlier in these recruiting cycles in the past, we've said, SMU doesn't want to pop them, coming off their junior year or early in the summer before their senior year. They wanted to wait. They wanted to have the best opportunity to get them, but also hold on to them. And to get a guy like Rickey Stewart and Demetrius Brisbane on board so early, this is one of those things where for SMU, you just are, what are you going to say? No? This is a great opportunity for SMU to now try and hold on to these commits. Chase Biddle, Jordan Hudson, they did it, the 4th of July, going into their senior year, at least in Jordan Hudson's case, which, look, they had to battle. They had to hold on. Obviously, things changed when the coaching staff turned over at SMU. But when it comes to holding on to guys like this, they still have a whole junior year. They still have, almost 2 years until they sign. I guess it would be about a year and a half. To get them on board this early is not something that should necessarily scare SMU fans. You want guys that are this highly touted and that are going to be a battle. And I just go to the fact that this wasn't a pressing commitment that they made. They weren't, full court pressing them to go ahead and make the decision. They didn't want that. If you're SMU, you don't want these guys to make the decision just on a whim. And especially in Rickey Stewart's case, he came off of that visit where he was on campus for the 7-on-7 tournament, and he ends up going back home and saying, you know what, I do want to be a part of that program. And they got the call on Sunday, and Rhett Lashley and the staff, and before you know it, he was committed. And I think for them, the way it went down is how they'd like it to. You don't want to be pressing. You don't want to be pushing these guys to do something that is short-sighted. And it's a credit to the way they've recruited him because they've had him on campus multiple times, because they showed them love. They cruised right through Chapel Hill during the evaluation period and made sure they knew they were really high on their board. And if you're SMU, you just got to sit back now and you got to reset and you got to double down on your efforts and make sure they always feel at home, because that's what brought them there. Is you get that home feeling because of the relationships. Demetrius Brisbane just had picked up a Texas offer, and instead now he's able to go and commit to SMU just days after that. And I think that just says a lot about how they recruited him. And so we'll really follow these guys, of course, and see how it pans out. But the good news is just not stop for Rhett Lashley and his staff. This is a red hot recruiting program. We've talked about it multiple times on this podcast during the late spring and kind of previewing the summer. SMU's getting hot, and I'm telling you, it's not done yet. So I'm dropping my class prediction piece at ontheponyexpress.com here on Wednesday morning. So check that out. Again, another reason to jump on board with the special, $1 for 3 months to get those. But one thing that I also want to announce is we've created a members only portion of our YouTube channel. And the first video debuts Wednesday. And we're going to do, for $3 a month, once a week, in-depth podcasts where it's basically unfiltered. It's not hiding and protecting things for subscribers. You're paying to read it, or you're paying to listen to it. And so I'm excited about that. I want that community to be like our community at ontheponyexpress.com, where you guys kind of ask for something and I deliver. Because right now I'm doing what I think is the best for the podcast and doing everything that I can to bring you guys good content. But I also have a site to run. The way to bring you guys more podcasts is to, bring in a little bit more money on it. So it'll be YouTube only until Spotify and Apple start doing premium podcasts. But if you're interested in it, check it out. If you have questions, email me, Twitter DM me, all of those things. I'm excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you're an ontheponyexpress.com subscriber, there's not going to be things that you're missing on the YouTube channel. All the things that we talk about are going to be on the site. But to add context, to go more in depth, that isn't in a free space, that was the best way that I could go about it for you guys, to give you guys a little extra something to listen to, whether it's at work or on the car ride home. So I'm excited about it. We'll see how it goes. It's a new venture for me, but we're excited about that. So you can check it out on the community tab of our YouTube channel. SMU is coming off of a busy official visit weekend, hosting 3 prospects on campus, 4 official visits. And the 3 were, and we talked about them last week, Sterling Brooks, the North Crowley defensive tackle, Eric Moore, the Gulfport, Mississippi linebacker, and Chris Wakoma, the 4-star Arlington Bowie safety. SMU is in a battle really for all 3 prospects against Power 5 programs, which is what you want. In terms of Sterling Brooks, he's a big defensive tackle that is currently on an official visit to TCU. He'll head to Baylor next week. He'll head to Houston. He'll head to Kansas. He's fitting in all 5 official visits before he announces his decision on August 20th, which if you're SMU, you've hosted him for an official visit. You were the first to offer. You made the move early. And he comes off your visit and he sets a decision date. So for me, reading tea leaves, and I've talked to Sterling, you can check out our full interview with all three official visitors at ontheponyexpress.com. But Sterling was very excited about what that official visit was like. And you talk with sources about how it went, and that's kind of backed up. He was super engaged in the visit, and you can check it out on his Twitter. He does have a video crew following him around on these visits, so he has a full 25-minute video recapping his first official visit. So it's gonna be fun to kind of follow those. It's called Day in the Life. So check that out on his Twitter to see that true behind the scenes feel of an official visit, which is sometimes tough. We don't necessarily get that very often. But SMU is firmly in the mix with Sterling Brooks. I love the fact that he set a decision date after his official visit to SMU. For me, that you look at that and you immediately say, okay, he had his questions answered. He really likes where SMU stands with him. And he feels good enough now to go ahead and set that decision date, because there was some talk with him that he was going to take it into the fall and see if some bigger programs offered. But now he's making that decision. So SMU's got to weather the storm of other official visits, but they are sitting in a really good spot for Sterling Brooks now. Eric Moore Jr. is a guy that SMU is battling for against Georgia Tech and Liberty, who will host him the next 2 weekends. And then he, kind of plans to make a decision shortly after that as far as what his timeline is going to be. I think from what I heard and what he told me, look, this was his first time on a plane, for just flying in general. So it was a big moment for him to fly all the way to Dallas, check out the hilltop. I think Maurice Crum and Scott Simons, and kind of sharing their plan for him, really stuck out to him overall. And he's a really good fit at SMU. You see Georgia Tech in the mix. You see Liberty in there. Those two programs, from the academic standpoint with Georgia Tech, and then obviously Liberty's still kind of looking for a lot of the same players defensively that SMU kind of looks for, with Scott Simons having been at Liberty. This one makes sense. We'll kind of see where the linebacker board goes, because they do have multiple official visitors at the linebacker position coming down the pipeline the next 2 weekends. So I'm intrigued to see where this position goes. Obviously, you've got a Power 5 program in Georgia Tech that has hosted him multiple times. If I was kind of a gut feeling, that almost seems like a little bit of a draw for him. But I think SMU has cut into that. This was the first time they've hosted him. They kind of came in late to the recruitment in a sense. Once Maurice Crum got a chance to get out there, he got his feet under him. He got out during the evaluation period and offered him, and then got him to campus. So that was a positive official visit for SMU, having Eric Moore on campus, and then Chris Wakoma. And I think Chris is probably one of the most intriguing prospects on this board for SMU overall. You have a guy who could play free, he could play nickel, and SMU's pitch is, we're going to need you really soon. Because if you look at the scholarship list for SMU at the safety position, they lose Brandon Crosley after this year. They have CJ Sanders, who's going to be a junior. He's going to be a junior this year. That means when Wakoma gets on campus, he's going to be a senior. You have Brian Massey and Jonathan McGill, who are both going to be seniors. You have Ahmad Moses, who's going to be a junior. And you don't really have anything else beyond that. It's just a matter of if Kyron Chambers really plays safety or corner. So that makes him a guy that can play right away. And I would think he's in the 2 deep right away, quite frankly. And that's what SMU's pitch is. He's a number 300 overall prospect in the country on 3. And he really had a good time. And I think the overarching theme on this recruiting weekend overall was the family aspect. They spent time at Rhett Lashley's house, swimming in the pool, kind of having a pool party. It's just Coach Lashley's birthday, so they kind of celebrated that a little bit. It was a very family vibe to what they put together. These are all guys outside of Eric Moore that have been at SMU multiple times for visits. And so it was really just an opportunity for them to bond even closer with the players and the staff. So I think SMU, look, they got 2 huge commitments in the class of 2025. They had 3 priority targets on campus over the weekend. And then they continued that momentum with Colin Simmons now on his official visit. You've got an even bigger official visit weekend coming this weekend and then next weekend. This is a program that is just starting to heat up. And I think when you see the class prediction piece, I think it's going to be a mix of guys that you just sit back and say, wow, what a move SMU's making for some of these guys. And also some players that have some legitimate upside as well. So this coaching staff is getting red hot in recruiting, and we're kind of seeing that. We're seeing the momentum pick up, and Colin Simmons is just the latest example. So we will have a more in-depth preview on the official visitors that are coming to town this weekend. Later in the week, 6 official visitors now locked in for SMU to host this coming weekend. One quick note, running back Harry Stewart out of Frisco Centennial did commit to Kansas after his official visit this weekend. And it obviously comes on the heels of SMU landing Rickey Stewart, which I think is notable because if you're Harry Stewart, you see a running back room that has Jalen Knighton, Kamar Wheaton, LJ Johnson, and Velton Gardner there when you're going to step foot on campus. And now, you get a commitment from Rickey Stewart in the class of 2025. I think that almost pushed things over the top for him to say, you know what, I am going to shut it down and commit to Kansas instead of take his official visit. That was going to be midweek on June 19th. But SMU, I think the good thing is if they want to push for a running back in 2024, they have a lot of time. There are some running backs that hold offers from SMU that it almost doesn't seem like they're too close to making decisions. And it looks like they are going to kind of take it into the fall. I look at a guy like Allen, running back Tavion Sibley. He had a big injury to end kind of his junior year, so he could bounce back up on the board a little bit as he recovers. You've got Lancaster running back Kewan Lacey, who they're kind of swinging away at. And there are some other big names in there. Jacoby Williams out of Beckville is a versatile piece. And we'll kind of see how the chips fall for this group that Keenan Hall still has. But, I mean, talk about a guy that's been red hot. And even if you miss on a guy from, right up the road who commits to Kansas, you just landed a 4-star, top 150 overall running back, when it comes to your future piece. And with the depth SMU has at running back, I just think it went from being a, hey, you're our guy in 2024. We want to get you on campus. We want to take our swing to, well, we already have the next guy coming, and he's pretty darn good. So kind of a tough piece there for SMU as far as a prospect they were expecting to host for an official visit, but instead he makes the call to go elsewhere and take his talents up to Lawrence and commit there. So we'll kind of continue to monitor that one and see if SMU makes kind of a late move there. But that's about it on this edition of the podcast. What a big start to the week for SMU it's been. We'll have plenty more coverage on the official visit weekend. We'll run down the visitors that are hitting campus for you guys later this week on the podcast. And also on the members only podcast, we're going to break down where my head was at with all these with all these class, with all these predictions that made it into the class. So be sure to check that out. Check out the community tab and join, and we'll just give us a shot. Just $3 for a month, and you can join and get an extra 4 to 5 podcasts a week or a month, and really in-depth stuff. And we're going to try to grow it into some live chats and do some live streams and have some fun with it. So excited about everything on the site. Be sure to check us out on theponyexpress.com. Again, $1 for 3 months, ends Wednesday at midnight. So don't miss out. Subscribe today. It's a perfect time to jump on board with ontheponyexpress.com. Be there and stay ahead of all the scoop when it comes to SMU football, basketball, recruiting, all the things. So we appreciate you guys listening to this edition of the podcast. We'll catch you guys later this week with another edition, and hope everybody's having a great week. We know the SMU Mustangs already are. Have a good one, everyone, and we'll catch you next time.